The politics of Google's fact checkers. What will Microsoft name the next Xbox? And a crib from Ford that lets you gently shake the baby. Very gently, like they're riding in a car. All that and a whole lot more coming up on Tech News Today.
This is Twit. Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1742, recorded Friday, April 7th, 2017.
This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Tracker, a coin-sized tracking device that pairs with your smartphone and keeps you from losing your most valued possessions. Visit thetracker.com right now and enter promo code TNT to receive a free Tracker Bravo with any purchase.
And by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. When it comes to the big decision of choosing a mortgage lender, work with one that has your best interest in mind. Use Rocket Mortgage for a transparent, trustworthy home loan process that's completely online at quickenloans.com/TNT.
Welcome to Tech News Today. The internet is a weird place, and we're here to make it less weird or more weird, depending on how weird or not weird you think it is, as regards to tech news. I'm Megan Murphy.
Normal, not weird. I'm Jason Howell. Before we dive in, I was going through some of the emails. We got a really nice email from Michael Greer, who apparently listens to the show all the time, but he just sent us a really nice note and said, you know, we're doing a good job. And like when I was reading through it, it reminded me of like something that I've felt a lot about podcasts that I love about podcasts as a format and as a thing that you listen to on a regular basis, is that because we're channeling this information into directly into people's ears on a regular basis, is like you get to know those people through their shows. And I love that aspect about podcasts. And that's kind of what Michael was saying in his letter. So I just want to say, hey, Michael, you're awesome. Thanks for writing. Really nice words. And I feel you, because I've had that with podcasts a lot in the past. And that's what makes podcasts so neat.
Should we start ours?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Homeland Security has officially withdrawn its request for Twitter to reveal who is behind @AltUSCIS, an account that is frequently critical of the Trump administration. The government's change of heart comes only one day after Twitter filed suit against them for making a request that violates federal law and our right to free speech. Twitter dropped its suit against the department and U.S. Customs and Border Protection. If the DHS wants to pursue the case, they still could. They could request a court order that's more in line with Twitter's guidelines, so this might not be over if they think that they can make a legal request. So this is, to me, this seems like this request for the information behind this Twitter user is one in like a long line of bad ideas that were just thrown out and then withdrawn when people were apparently paying attention. Right. So, you know, it's good that they withdrew it. They had asked for the IP address, the phone number, other identifying information. It might not be over, but it might be over.
This one. Who knows if it'll happen again. Yeah, I mean, and it sounds like the request itself, there was, as part of the request was kind of a gag order of sorts, you know, don't talk about this, don't reveal that this request actually happened. And of course, Twitter did in a very public way, and almost immediately the tables turned and the request was nullified. So, yeah, I'll be curious to see kind of where this leads. Oregon Senator Ron Wyden sent a letter to Customs and Border Patrol Commissioner for an explanation of how it happened, who's responsible, just basically saying like this is a really big lapse in judgment and who was behind the decision on this, because it's, I mean, it goes against, it goes against the Constitution at its core. So good to see that this change happened so quickly after being public. But what do you know, @alt_USCIS, the account, follower count shot up from 30,000 before all of this. Now it's at 162,000. So if the idea was to silence a Twitter account, it did the exact opposite. And now plenty more people, it's on everybody's radar.
Yeah, I think that, I think this is good news. You know, Microsoft has fought against this a lot. The idea that the government can make information requests and they don't ever have to tell us. Like they've the gag order, like you were talking about. Like Microsoft's been fighting just to be able to tell people, hey, the government has requested this information about you or has made this many requests. Just being able to say that the information has been requested at all. I mean, in some cases, you can understand why it would infringe upon the investigation by telling the person, hey, like the government's looking into this, but in most cases, it's just so broad. And the fact that, that anyone can make these requests without having to say how many requests are made, I think that is changing, and hopefully it will continue to change.
Yeah, and I don't even think Microsoft's alone in that. I think a lot of the other tech companies are kind of going along that same line, trying to at least make sure that they're being a little bit more upfront, or they have the ability to share a little bit more about what kind of inquiries are happening behind the scenes. And you see that report kind of releasing, a few times a year, or at least once a year, where they kind of detail in full how many has happened. So the U.S. Department of Labor says it has evidence that shows how Google is violating federal laws. Very legal heavy episode today, by the way. Violating federal laws as relates to compensating its female workforce. The Department of Labor testified in court saying it found, quote, systemic disparities against women pretty much across the entire workforce, end quote. Google told TechCrunch that they vehemently disagree with that claim, and they're pointing to Google's own analysis that shows no gender pay gap whatsoever. The Department of Labor filed a lawsuit in January against Google, and I think we talked about it on the show when that happened, to get the company to hand over compensation data that it was withholding. They say that Google was holding on to it and refused to hand it over. Meanwhile, Google's a federal contractor, and so they're required to hand over this information, but Google was not forthcoming with that, under the guise of I think, protecting their employees, right, but from having to share this overly broad information. And, in this case, the Department of Labor is saying, yeah, you're doing that because there is a pay disparity here.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the first thing I would say, like, yeah, why don't you hand it over if you have nothing to hide? But you're right. But that's the thing, that the secrecy among in the workplace of what people get paid is part of the problem. The fact that it's always so secret. Some jobs you'll get fired for discussing your salary. Like, there's not really, in my opinion, there's some reason behind that, but there's not good reason. And when you think on the other side, that really that's what makes it difficult to decide, to figure out, really, is there a pay disparity? How big is it? Because you can't, we talked about Erica Joy, who was at Google, and she came up with that spreadsheet that everyone, if you work at Google, put on your say whether you're male or female, say what your salary is. She didn't get fired for that, but like it wasn't welcome at Google when she was doing that. So yeah, the pay gap is really confusing. It's not black and white. There's a lot involved in it. There's the fact that women often prefer temporal flexibility, jobs with temporal flexibility. And I say women often, but like you like that too. You're a dad. You like flexible work,
for sure.
Workplaces. Like you maybe could be a lawyer in San Francisco if you wanted to be in the office.
I wanted to be married to my job. Yeah,
right. Yeah. Be in the office 14 hours a day. And so I'm not saying only women choose that.
Right.
Men and more men are choosing that more, and they should. The work-life balance is important, but that's what contributes. It's not just outright sexism that's contributing to this difference in pay. Sometimes women get labeled as too aggressive if they ask for pay raises, where men might be labeled as just a good good
right,
worker.
Real go-getter. He's really assertive and asks for what he wants.
Right. So basing pay on just what you get for what you ask for, and you don't get where you don't. There's some other some things should change there too. So this is a really complicated issue. It varies by state. In California, it's an 86% pay gap versus like Wyoming is a 64% pay gap. Like I don't know why that is. I'd like to know. Is Silicon Valley really the results of that pay gap being different? I don't know.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what actually comes out of this as well, because Google, like I said, is opposed to this assertion that there is a pay gap. In fact, Google tweeted out earlier this month that it had closed the gender pay gap globally for the company to kind of, I think they announced it on the same day as Equal Pay Day, was, kind of being touted on Twitter with hashtags and all that kind of stuff, celebrated. So Google is saying this. However, the Department of Labor is is vehemently on the other side saying, no, actually there is a gap. So someone's telling the truth and someone's not.
Right.
So we'll see where this all lies.
Well, yeah, I mean, equal pay being like, you do the exact same job as someone else. And so you get paid the exact same. And then that means like you never took maternity leave or you never, you never stayed home for a year to take care of your children. Like there's just so many factors.
How many things there offset that just based on their inherent value.
Right.
Even, salary is only one aspect of the equation, I suppose. Google calls this, it says it's unconstitutional to require the information, says it's a fishing expedition with no relevance on the compliance review. We'll see.
We'll see. In other Google news, the company says it will soon add fact-checking to its worldwide results. So it won't actually label items as fake news, but it will notify readers if an article has been officially fact-checked. Google has been using the tool in the US and the UK, and now the company says it's ready to go global in all languages. They'll assign the fact-checked label to results that have received feedback from both publishers and users. So there's some algorithmic stuff going on here as well. It'll apply to Google News and search results, but not every page. So you have to, if you want your site to be fact checked, you have to be using schema.org. That's a claim review markup on the specific page where they fact check public statements. Or you can use a Share the Facts widget developed by Duke University and Jigsaw.
People are super divided on this. I mean, it's very similar to what Facebook, has been playing around with. Personally, I'm super happy to have information that I think arms me with the insight that I need to know whether what I'm reading, it never hurts to have a second kind of confirmation that what you're actually reading or clicking through to is real, is determined by some of these organizations like Snopes. To be actually telling the truth and everything. But then it all really comes down to like what you feel Google's mission as a search engine is. Is it to offer an internet without making its own claims on what that information is, simply being a search engine where you plug in your search result and you get the results the way they come at you and you make those determinations? Or do people want Google to step in and make assertions about, make determinations about what is coming up there and weighing things over the other? And I think there are some people who don't want Google to take that step, want Google to be a little bit more hands-off as far as this is concerned. But I think what maybe some people who feel that way don't realize is that Google's been doing this all along. It's been happening behind the scenes. Google has tweaked its algorithms a million times. It's why SEO is a thing. And that's just the starting point of it. Now we're just seeing a tag that kind of indicates some of that as more like from a point of confidence. And personally, I'm happy to see that. Oh, and that's that. It turns out.
I agree with you.
Excellent. All right. Okay, good.
I could try to disagree with you just for fun, but I
what do
agree
you have
with
to say to that?
I agree with you. It's been happening for a long time, and this is just putting a label on it.
Yeah. All right. It turns out Samsung's going to be all right. Samsung reported an estimate, anyways, that its operating profit for Q1 should increase to more than 50% higher than what it brought in the same quarter last year, to around 9.9 trillion won or $8.8 billion. That would make it Samsung's highest ever Q1 profit and its second most profitable quarter in its history. Once we get the final results, this is just an estimation, kind of a projection of what they think Q1 is going to turn out as being when they make the official announcement. Its biggest quarter was 9.56 billion in Q3 of 2013, and wow, I mean this is pretty remarkable for a company that has had so much major stuff happening behind the scenes. Yeah,
2 recalls. JY Lee, the head of Samsung former head of Samsung, made his first appearance in court today. And then they're still up 50%. That is pretty amazing. I mean, and then, the S8, you can pre-order it now. People are excited about it. There's those magic 3 or 4 months before the iPhone comes out where it's the everything phone. And then this is the 10th anniversary iPhone. So they'll be up against something, but it's totally, there's a lot of expectation for the 10th anniversary iPhone. So I would not be completely surprised if it was kind of a flop. If the iPhone was something people didn't really they didn't want. And that maybe Samsung does pull ahead. I mean, they're doing great. Android as an operating system is doing really well. So, yeah, I am surprised by this because I think when we just casually pulled people, a lot of people were like, I'm not going to buy Samsung phones anymore. They let me down, but I don't know. It looks like a nice phone.
Yeah, well, it definitely looks like a nice phone. And I think, some analysts are projecting that this next quarter, so, the sales of the S8 are going into the quarter we're in right now, Q2, that this might actually end up being their biggest quarter. Some analysts predict that anyways. I guess you can predict anything you want. But, phones is just one part of it too. Samsung has its hands in a lot of other places. And in fact, its semiconductor arm has been doing incredibly well. And they've been selling a lot of low and mid-tier phones in a lot of different markets as well. So they've got a lot of things going that are helping them through this. It felt so dire for Samsung when all the Note 7 stuff was happening, and then when the political indictment started, you were just like, man, it's just one hit after another. Doesn't seem to be affecting them monetarily.
Here's an update to the intellectual property lawsuit that Google's Waymo has filed against Uber. In court documents, Uber says they haven't stolen Waymo's LIDAR system, and they can prove this since they haven't even finished theirs yet. In other words, they didn't copy their neighbor's homework because they haven't even done their homework yet. Uber also says the LIDAR tech they're working on is quite different than Waymo's since they use 4 lenses, while Waymo uses only 1. The documents also attest to the fact that their LIDAR was in development long before they hired Anthony Lewandowski from Waymo. In case you're not keeping up, Lewandowski is the employee accused of stealing 14,000 files of proprietary company documents, and he has chosen to plead the fifth, so we will never hear his part of the story. So yeah, Uber says they're using the off-the-shelf LiDAR technology right now. They're not even using what they're fighting with against Waymo. And they say that Waymo is only filing for this injunction now for competitive reasons, because they've known about this for months, and they're now just trying to stop Uber just to get ahead.
Well, when you're CC'd on an email and you discover it, you discover that it's happening. Like, I imagine you have to kind of collect your sources, build your case, and everything. So, yeah, possibly it's actually, as part of it, I'm sure part of it is the whole competitive aspect. But it takes time to build a case. Uber did admit that one of the Waymo documents, of 14,000, was discovered. So they did like a big company-wide scouring of devices and stuff with people who might be connected to this. And they found one document discovered on the personal device of one of its employees, Samir Krushgar. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he's also another ex-Waymo employee. He downloaded documents in 2016, a month before leaving Waymo to join Lewandowski at Uber, and they found one document on his personal device, not any computers, no Uber computers. That was basically all they found, and they said they interviewed 85 current and former employees and scoured a lot of devices, as well as Uber's Git repository for matches, and out of all those hits, nothing substantial except for that one.
But they did also expose that Uber was not telling the full truth to the Nevada Motor Vehicles Department, because when, of course, Otto, which was the self-driving car company that Anthony Lewandowski started, that Uber bought, which wasn't like a surprise. They tried to make it out that like Uber bought this startup, but like they had always sort of been, that was always the plan for him to come to Uber. And they said that they told the Nevada Motor Vehicles Department that they were using a proprietary LIDAR system. So they said like that they were using it, but then they had to go back to them and say, actually, they weren't using LIDAR at all. Like that wasn't the technology they were using. So they actually lied to
Why do you say that then?
Yeah, it was like, oh, because you throw out terms like this, oh, it's a proprietary LIDAR system, use the word LIDAR, and everyone's like, that sounds good and scientific and self-driving-ish. So yeah, they weren't telling the truth. It was just one of the many lies that they told to get through regulation in order to have this, self-driving truck barreling down the Nevada highway carrying Bud Light.
It was a lie, Dar. Sorry. I didn't even get Karen to laugh. I think I got a groan from Kara, actually.
So many LIDARs. After the break, we'll talk to Sam Machkovech from Ars Technica about Microsoft's Project Scorpio. But first, let's let's take a minute to thank Tracker, the sponsor of this episode. You've cut it so close. You worked out, you took a shower, you sent off a couple of 2, 3 emails, 5 text messages, you ate your breakfast, you caught 2 seconds of the news, laptop's in your bag, you have just enough time to make it to work. Then you turn to lock the front door. Where are your keys? You have no idea where they are. You're going to be late. We have all been there. I was there today. Now with Tracker, you never have to worry about losing your things, your keys, or anything else again. The Tracker Bravo is a coin-sized device constructed with anodized aluminum for the thinnest, most durable tracking. You can locate your misplaced keys, your wallet, your bag, your computer. You can do all that in just seconds. If you have Apple's new AirPods, which I do, and you expect to rely on the Find My AirPods feature, do not rely on that. They will not help you find them. It doesn't work if your AirPods are in the case, so you have to put a tracker on your AirPod case. That way you can find the case. Believe me, I wish I had, but I found mine, and now I'm going to put a tracker on it, and all will be well. You won't be sorry. Those AirPods are not cheap. Just pair your tracker to your smartphone, attach it to any item, and find its precise location with the tap of a button. If you lose your phone, you press the button on the tracker device, or you just ask your Amazon Echo, and your phone will ring even when it's on silent. Your phone can track up to 10 devices at once, and family sharing lets you track the same Tracker Bravo from multiple phones. Customized 2-way separation alerts so you're notified before you leave your item behind. With over 4.5 million devices shipped, Tracker has the largest crowd GPS network in the world, so your lost item shows up on a map even if it's miles away. The Tracker app records its last known location, then when another Tracker user comes within a 100-foot range of your item, you'll receive a GPS update of where your item is located. The distance indicator on the Tracker app will show you if you're getting closer to your items. And with a 30-day money-back guarantee, there's no reason not to give it a try. Stop losing your stuff. Go to thetracker.com and enter promo code TNT, and you'll get a free Tracker Bravo with any order. That's TheTracker.com, promo code TNT for your free Tracker Bravo with any order.
All right, we told you yesterday about Microsoft's unveiling of the specs inside its upcoming monster of a console, Scorpio. Even has a monster name, Scorpio. I like it. And champing at the bit to talk all about it today is Sam Machkovech from Ars Technica. How's it going, Sam?
I'm just chomping at the bit to talk about a Scorpio, apparently.
No, I absolutely am. Right? No.
Well, it's funny because Scorpio is a thing that we've been talking about since last summer. Yeah. Microsoft has not been shy. As soon as word really got out there that they would have another box, we've been really talking about it. And Digital Foundry, which is a name that I've been following over at Eurogamer for some time, got some very huge dibs. I mean, there's a lot to really dig into. Where do you want to start?
Well, okay, so first things first, I'm having a hard time understanding whether this is like an iterative kind of half step the way we've seen with like the PS4 in recent months, or whether this is the next big Microsoft console, or even what does this say about Microsoft's strategy for Xbox going forward?
Sure. I think that it's interesting because what Microsoft really wants is for you to just buy an Xbox, and as long as it's in a store in modern days and it says Xbox, that it'll run Xbox games. And that Windows 10 is also sort of part of the strategy. They really want you to essentially want to play their games on any system. And so what I think they're setting this up to be is if you've got some more money, and you've got the super fancy TV that could use the extra bump in 4K and HDR effects and things like that, that this newer box that's going to definitely be more expensive will give you more. Or if you don't want that, if you want to get something for $200 that will play the same games, get that. Or if you have a Windows 10 machine that's decent enough, that'll work too. That's the dream world. That is the thing that they're putting out there. And that's going to be a hard thing for people to really get through their heads, because when you go to the store, there's other Xboxing is the plural I prefer, where you've got, the Xbox 360, the Xbox original, that can make things a little confusing. So games won't just work on every system, but this one is designed essentially to be, you don't need it. The other games will work, but if you do get it on whatever Scorpio's eventually named, it'll run the quote-unquote best.
Okay, so Eurogamer says it's going to cost around $500. That's their guess. What's your guess?
Ooh, I think that Microsoft has an opportunity to, if they do get up to that price, dump in pre-installed software so that for $500 you get a couple of games thrown in, that sort of thing. So my guess is whatever we're going to get is going to have a high price tag, probably up to 500. Could be 400. They could really undercut and want to make that big move to get into living rooms and lose a little cash. Whatever they're going to do, I really do expect packed in software by default. In fact, it's going to be older games that have been patched for 4K is my guess. I don't have any reason other than a hunch, and the fact that pack-ins are a cheap way to add value to something that has a high sticker price as a reason for that. They're going to want people to come in, and I think E3 is going to be a chance for them to say, buy in, and we're going to take these older games and they're going to look awesome. Because as I've talked about in some reviews I've done, all of the games from last year's Xbox line were designed to run in 4K on Windows 10. I've got a souped up PC. I ran Gears of War 4 and Forza Horizon 3 at 4K, running sometimes at 60 frames a second, not always. And it looked awesome. I said the Scorpio is technically here if you have a crazy expensive computer, but I think that's what we're going to see.
How does 4K on, let's say, the PS4 Pro compare to what we're seeing here with Scorpio? Is it kind of on the Sony side? Is it more like a half step, and here it's like all in 4K content is what you can expect?
You know, that's going to be a thing we have to wait to see, because we haven't seen any gameplay footage on Scorpio. We have Richard Ledbetter's word that it looks great. He gave us one little screenshot of a 4K bit of existing Forza game. We already have a ton of PlayStation 4 games, and what we can tell you is that a 4K, quote unquote 4K on PlayStation 4 Pro games is quite sharp. It's not exactly 4K. There tends to be stair stepping, or checkerboarding can be the term that's used to sort of get sort of close to 4K. That is good enough, because the issue with 4K, I find, is that it's not as impressive as the jump from old TVs to 1080p. So it's good enough, and I don't know that we're going to really notice the difference between pure, quote unquote, 100% every single pixel 4K and the current tricks that PlayStation 4 Pro currently uses to take its older games and bump them up to 4K. So there will, I think, be a difference, and I think Microsoft is going to work their darndest to show us games that sell that. For now, all we have is faith and rainbows and unicorns to work with.
Yeah, it'll be really impressive if you have, as everyone probably will, that 80-inch 4K TV hanging on your wall. We'll all be.
We're coming over to your house later to check out all of the Scorpio games that don't exist, right? What other dreams are we going to fulfill? Do I get Tesla here? What are we talking about? No, I mean, it's so much guesswork, because 4K is one of these funny things that not everyone has. Right. And I think there's also an assumption that people are going to buy 4K TVs. They're going to be the only TVs for sale in the next year, 2 years, just because it's the same cost to make. So it's just, I think a lot of people want to be the 4K thing. And I will say Microsoft did a smart thing with their Xbox One S and put a fancy pants 4K Blu-ray player into it. I've been loving Planet Earth 2 on that. And I think that's going to get talked about a lot. But then they can't call it Xbox 4K, though, when it comes to a name, because the Xbox One S kind of sort of does 4K as well. So that's going to be confusing because they haven't named it yet. Right. I'd be curious. I like to think Xbox 2 as a name, but I think that would be confusing because then people will think, oh, well, it won't work. I think they really painted themselves in a corner with Xbox One as a name, because if they want to iterate on that, wait, wasn't that the one? Wait, how many ones do I need? So that's, I don't know about what you guys are guessing for names, but I think that's actually going to be a bigger problem, the name of this thing, than other people think. Just because, again, what's the messaging? What does this thing do? Do I need it? Will it work with the old games? That one is going to really be obnoxious. It's going to be worse than the Wii U in terms of name confusion, in my opinion. But I'd love to be proven wrong.
My guess is Y box.
Yeah, they're changing in a different direction. I never saw that coming.
Yeah,
I was thinking 1+1, but then that already exists in the phone world.
Yeah, so. This might be a little bit inside baseball, but you wrote an interesting piece about who they gave it to, the Scorpio 2 first, Digital Foundry. Talk a little bit about that. I found that interesting in terms of game reviewing. Inside baseball.
Oh, this is such an inside baseball thing. I'll try and be brief. Is that Microsoft is clearly proud of the silicon here, the machine that they've put together, and specifically the fact that it so as far as we know, as we've been told, does all these little tricks that makes it specially efficient, that they had everything in the chips designed and customized so that it would work very nicely with what's known as DirectX 12 specifically, which is one of the API calls that developers use for most PC games and x86 style PC games, that sort of specific development architecture. You know, other game systems have come and gone and tried to go, we need a core with a bazillion processors and these stupid things and that, and it doesn't work. And Microsoft has really busted their butts to deliver that sort of thing. So the guys at Eurogamer's Digital Foundry have been the ones who have just essentially said Xbox One is worse. That's what they've said all along, and they've been able to do it with all this video analysis stuff where they show games running side by side and they analyze the frame pacing, which is like exactly how the image refreshes. So when they say 30 frames a second and it doesn't look right, they can tell you why that is and stuff like that. So as I said, this is like McDonald's inviting ABC News's Pink Slime reporting team into a beef factory. They're saying, all right, you're the ones who have issues and have specific complaints. We're going to serve you every single thing you're asking us about on a platter. And as a result, everything about the story and everything that we all reported from it was all in the language of, oh, these are the guys who care about this stuff, and they have been answered and responded to. However, Digital Foundry didn't talk about certain stuff, in particular, virtual reality. Xbox has been bullish about saying in events, this is going to be a VR system. They've been very vague otherwise, but they called it out, VR. And there was nothing in this report that Digital Foundry did that talked about or asked about or hinted at VR in a big way. And that's interesting because if they were the ones individually reporting on it, if they went behind Microsoft's back and gotten some leaked info and stuff, they would have been able to be like, what's VR going to be like? And they didn't answer or ask that question. So that got lost in it. So this is what happens when a game company and an outlet team up together, is that certain questions just don't get asked and a lot of people just let it slide. But we at Ars Technica are very curious whether they're going to step back, take a breath, and maybe not focus so much on VR based on how VR has been sort of meh over the past year in terms of consumer performance.
Yeah, right. God, a part of me thinks that it would be really strange if they didn't at least have VR as part of it. But if we don't know, then you don't know, and maybe we'll find out eventually. What are some of the hurdles that Microsoft has to overcome to make this a success? I mean, one challenge I see is in this kind of new approach to upgrading the console. It's making sure that people who just bought into the Xbox, when the Xbox One launched, how many years ago was that at this point? It wasn't that long ago. Making sure that they don't feel like second-class, owners to the new system, that they still feel somewhat modern. Is that a big challenge for Microsoft?
I'm not so sure that that's a problem because the Xbox One came out, I want to say 4 years ago, 2013. Some fact checker hit me on the internet if I'm messing that up I believe 2013. I think that the estimate at this point is that the average avid gaming person has enough money to throw every 3, 4, 5 years and is buying multiple systems and is willing to throw that $300, $400 at a box. That's not everybody, but that core group may not be afraid of going, that's good value, and it's going to be truly 4K gaming. So I don't know that that's the hurdle as much as the confusion of, wait, which system do I need?
Right.
If I buy the Xbox One S, am I going to be left behind? If I buy the Xbox One Pro or Scorpio or whatever they call it, how long until I need to replace that? That creates that question of, because this is going to be an ongoing system is the idea. Like that's why there's so much backwards compatible stuff coming from the 360 to Xbox One, because Microsoft wants this to be kind of like an iPhone, where you have a comfortable amount of software at any given time that is compatible with whatever just came out. And that eventually within 5, 6, 7 years, you're going to be like, yeah, I like throwing my electronics away and getting a new thing. And they're really banking on gaming fans and living room box users being the same way. So I think that messaging about which box you need and what you're going to get and whether games are going to get left behind is going to be the big thing. Also, the name, I'm telling you, man, we're going to be talking about whatever stupid name they come up with. It's going to be stupid. I'm telling you, stupid names coming.
Why box?
Listen, that would be better than what we're going to get. That's my vote. Megan wins the naming contest. Everybody else is a chump.
And that's free advice from Megan, right? Mm-hmm. You're not charging for that for Microsoft, or maybe you should. Maybe you should. Okay, well then, final thoughts. Are you excited about what you learned? Does it live up to kind of any internal expectations that you may have had at this point?
I will say from my conversations with folks at the Xbox team, and they don't tell me much of good stuff because they know me. They see me as guy incognito wearing the press hat at the bar. I'm like, I'm not listening to this for journalism. But I will say the Xbox team is really being given resources to make things that gamers like. That's how it was when the Xbox 360 was sort of at its peak, and things went downhill when they were like, we're going to do Kinect and we're going to make Kinect be a big thing. And the original Xbox One kind of stunk. So things are turning around, and I feel like this Scorpio system is going to be sort of the fulfillment of a 3 to 4 year plan of essentially a system that's truly designed to kick butt and to make it easy for other game makers to show up on a platform and make an incredibly good looking piece of 4K software. Now, do we really need 4K processing to make incredible games? Not necessarily. I'm playing the crap out of my Switch right now, which is a 720p portable system. It looks great on my TV as well, but you don't need a bunch of pixels to make an incredible game. And that's a message that's got to be sent through as well with the older Xbox and a newer one, and that everyone can just kind of buy whatever system they want and play games. And, you know, Xbox is sort of behind. They're not dead. People are buying Xbox and playing games on Xbox. It's not like the Dreamcast in the early 2000s. Mm-hmm. But it's just going to bear to be seen how that all shakes out and which games come out and the first party games. Microsoft doesn't have a lot of announced stuff coming out for this year that's getting people excited. There's been more cancellations and bad news than there has been really good news announced. So I think that's a much bigger and more important message for the end of this year than whether the Scorpio is hot.
Excellent. I'm happy we saved the Scorpio talk for you, Sam. I knew you'd bring it.
Well, you know, I like to think of myself as the twit Scorpio.
That you are. Get over here. No, that's Scorpion. Sorry. Sam Machkovech, Ars Technica.com. Where do you want people to find all your stuff that you're writing?
Just come over to my house in Seattle. We'll play some Switch. It'll be fun. Come on over. At Sam Red on the Twitter. Yeah. Or we'll go to the movies this weekend. Colossal is starting to come out everywhere. Totally recommend that. If it's not out in your town this weekend, it should be out next weekend. Anne Hathaway, Giant Monsters. I'm not going to say anything else. It's much better than that might sound. I already think that sounds good. It's a good movie.
Sounds good. Yeah, I've heard good reviews already. So, all right. Thank you, Sam. Have a good weekend.
We got another voicemail. This one is about the Treasury Secretary's comment a few weeks ago that it will be a while before the robots steal all your jobs. Let's listen to the message.
Hello. I work in the manufacturing industry, and I was calling to comment on the Friday episode where you were talking about the Treasury Secretary. He is actually not completely wrong. See, the machines we use today, they're essentially robots, and instead of taking away jobs, they're actually adding production capabilities. Even 15, 20 years ago, parts we're making today would have been impossible or extremely difficult to make. So probably in 25 to 50 years, we might actually see robots replacing humans. But for right now, the robots will only be adding to the production capabilities of humans in all industries. Thank you very much. I enjoyed the show. Have a good day.
It's always great to hear from people who are in these different industries.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a complicated topic. Someone else emailed me with a suggestion. Jim Stravaropoulos emailed me about a website called workingnation.com that kind of looks at this. It's the future of work is changing. Are you ready? Because that's the thing. I mean, it's going to change at some point. Getting ready for it is important no matter what industry you're in.
Yeah, that's the direction that it's going. Mm-hmm. So you got to be ready for it. Up next, if TNT doesn't put your baby to sleep, maybe Ford can. But first, let's take a minute to thank Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans, the sponsor of this episode. We live our lives in the digital age. We want to do everything online. It's not always possible to do everything online. Thankfully, now you can even get a mortgage or refinance your own mortgage online. You don't have to do it the manual process of meeting with someone and pulling all this information from a million different places and being inconvenienced in real life. You can do it online. And that's what Rocket Mortgage is all about. It's about being someone that you can trust, that has your best interest in mind. With Rocket Mortgage, you're going to get a transparent online process that gives you the confidence to make an informed decision. So you won't have to waste time searching through stacks of paperwork in real life. With Rocket Mortgage, you can securely share your financial information to get a mortgage approval in minutes, online, all digital. You can even adjust the rate and length of your loan in real time, so you can make sure to get the mortgage solution that's perfect for your situation. You can play around with the numbers and find the right fit for you. Whether you're looking to buy a home or refinance your existing mortgage, you can lift the burden of getting a home loan with Rocket Mortgage. So skip the bank, skip the waiting, and go completely online at quickenloans.com/TNT. That's quickenloans.com/TNT. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030. And we thank Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans for their support. TNT's fan of the day is Robert Seals on Twitter, who actually sent us this video to show us, well, a wonderful desktop picture, I'm assuming, of his family. But also, there we are way down in the corner, way down in the corner where we belong.
Maybe. Little.
Probably in the background. He's probably doing work, and you can't also be distracted by watching TNT. So I'm assuming Robert is listening to TNT. Excellent stuff. Show us how you watch or listen to TNT. Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup. Post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, and use the hashtag #HowIWatchTNT, and we're going to find it.
I had a fair amount of environmental guilt when I used to drive my kids around in the car going nowhere, just because that was the only way to get them to fall asleep. Just drive around the car.
Been there.
Did you feel guilty? I felt guilty.
I never did, because sometimes I just like to go for a drive, and I just figured I'm just going for a drive, looking at the scenery, and yes, my kid is asleep, and I'm happy.
Well, now you don't have to go for a drive. Now you don't get to go for a drive. Okay. Now I don't have to have the guilt. Well, my kids don't fall asleep in the car anymore. Anyway, there is technology to solve this problem. It's a smart bed from Ford that simulates the feel and the sound of the car. It looks like a bassinet. It contains an LED light to make it look like you're passing street lights. Sadly, Ford Max Moto Dreams is only a prototype right now. I think it should be real, especially because hybrid and electric cars, they're so darn quiet. Who can sleep with all that lack of noise?
I love the attention to detail that they're like, well, you're probably trying to get your kid to sleep at night, and there are lights flashing by the windows, and we factored that. That's just not a detail I would have thought of.
Yeah.
But I never did this at night. Like, I always did it during the day. Oh. I don't know. Like, we never went out for a drive with a kid at night, but I can understand why you would need to. Some kids, you just can't get them down to sleep.
So maybe you didn't feel guilty because it wasn't like you did it every single day for like a half an hour to 2 hours.
Didn't have that experience. Definitely did it, though. Yeah. This is cool. I mean, it's probably super expensive. The only thing I could find to compare it to is a product called Snoo at happiestbaby.com. And it's a smart crib, or whatever you want to call it. Very similar actually in design. It doesn't have, and a very cheesy promotional video, by the way, but it doesn't have the kind of like car motion aspect. It just more like kind of gently shakes the baby in the bassinet. Gently. I put the word gently in there. Okay, that's really important when you say the words "shake the baby," and it kind of does the same thing. This thing costs $1,160. So I imagine Ford's is probably pretty expensive.
I guess so. But this one shakes the baby when the baby is shaking.
Gently
shakes the baby. Gently shakes the baby when the baby needs gentle shaking.
Right.
So it's like smart. It's like you don't need to pay attention to your kid anymore. Like if you can go watch your Netflix and
and then if the baby wakes up and like starts making noise, it detects that and starts shaking again, and then turns up the white. Yes, gently shaking the baby, and then starts to turn up the white noise, and it's like, you will not wake up, baby. You will go back to sleep.
Yeah. I hate it.
You hate it?
But I like the car one, so I don't know. But both of them, this design, I'm sure if it, has gone through the Consumer, Products Commission or whatever, it looks like it's pretty easy to tip over, doesn't it? It's like with just those little wire legs, it looks like you could just do it.
I don't know if it's any easier to tip over than a normal, but because we had a bassinet that was on wheels, so it was. I mean, yeah, those legs are pretty thin, but I don't know.
That one looks more sturdy. The Ford one looks more sturdy. And I would expect that from Ford. Like, it's very difficult to tip over a car, so I'd assume it would be even more difficult to tip this over. But
One would hope. One would really hope if you're laying your baby in there. I don't know. It's kind of cool, I guess. I just... I don't know. We can do these things too. But hey, we're out. We can't actually talk about this anymore because we're out of the woods.
We can judge all we want.
We went through individually. We went through
shook our own baby.
Yes, exactly. Gently.
Only gently.
Gently to sleep. TNT records live every Monday through Friday. Maybe we will gently rock you to sleep every Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Pacific. 7 p.m. Eastern, 2300 UTC at twit.tv/live. You can be part of the show by emailing us at tnt@twit.tv. Leave us a short voicemail at 260-TNT-SHOW and find us on Twitter at TechNewsTodayTV.
You can find all the ways to subscribe our gently rocking show. Subscribe at twit.tv/TNT or just go to iTunes or go to wherever you listen to podcasts or watch podcasts and subscribe. If you want to see us in person, just email tickets at twit.tv. You can sit right near us and maybe we'll do some gentle shaking.
We'll gently shake
too.
You in person.
Yeah. And if you think that's really weird, you can tweet that at me. I'm at Megan Maroney.
That would be weird. Hey, how's it going? I'm at Jason Howell. Thanks to our technical director, Kara. I finally got her to laugh today. Thanks to Mario for helping out here at the studio. Thanks to Kevin for editing the show. And thanks to you for talking tech with us today. We'll see y'all on Monday. Bye, everybody.